Day after day, your own life's a wreck. The power is the beat, just breathe on your neck. You get no respect, you get no relief. You gotta speak up and yell out your piece. So back off your rules, back off your jive. I'm sick of not living to stay alive. Leave me alone, I'm not asking a lot. I don't wanna be controlled. It's all I want. 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 Yeah, 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 yeah.
We woke to the sound of screaming and ran out to see a man had stabbed one of the passengers. He had that same dark faded face as Rosie and kept asking us to join them forever in torment. The guy he stabbed began to pulsate and move uncontrollably. I heard the snapping of bones and his face began to fade. It was an awful sight. He then stood up asking his wife and son to join him so they could be complete. Sam picked up a piece of wood and stabbed the guy right through the head. He then proceeded to fade out into the mist almost as though he was part of it. It seems that engines aren't the only things that have been affected. We also saw that during the night the guards on duty were ambushed by these birds or maybe even pterodactyl-like creatures. What the hell even is this thing? We decided the best plan was to keep going down the line and try to find Rebecca, Henry, Mia, or anyone else. God, I hope we don't run into any more of those things. When we neared Gordon's Hill, we decided to check the coach's derail, and we saw a brake coach. Did Henry and Rebecca lost half of their train? I mean, they must have. They didn't have a brake coach yesterday. We didn't know how these coaches had gotten here, as they weren't when we originally gone up. We decided it was best to leave them be and keep going. While heading down Gordon's Hill, we were shocked to find a blue tank engine. He was damaged, broken, and almost out of coal. But the number one told us everything. He didn't say anything. He groaned in pain as he kept backing away from us. This whole thing must have taken a toll on him. We're nearing Marin and Thomas still hasn't said anything. Percy's trying to talk to him, but it's not working. I wonder how long Thomas has been like this. I'll have to talk to his crew once we stop to figure out what happened. We made it to Marin where we had originally seen Rosie. We put Percy and Thomas into a sighting where Thomas finally spoke. Apparently this all started a month ago when that new research facility was built to research Sodor's past and recently found artifacts. Edward was sent to help at the facility for a while till Topham could get a permanent engine. While doing so he began to act differently. He was always worrying and being clumsy. That was until the day it all went wrong. 2 weeks ago the facility had been doing strange experiments that were yet unknown, during which Thomas took a goods train there where he talked to Edward, but then strange notes were heard within the facility. The people there began screaming and a massive roar echoed the air. The fog sirens blared as the mist leaked out of the facility and spread all over Sodor. Thomas tried to run, but the heavy train held him. Edward tried to help, but Thomas told him to run. Thomas slowly moved, and when he finally got a grip, he saw Arthur heading right towards the facility. Arthur hasn't been seen since. Some engines were transformed into horrible monsters while others were lucky enough to be spared. Thomas began to cry, asking why him, why out of everybody he was spared. We didn't believe him and told him the mist never leaked from the facility and there was never a massive roar and everything was right till yesterday when we were at Knapford with him. He stared at us with confusion. Knapford. I haven't been there in a week. I don't know what to think anymore. He claims that the facility is the cause of this, and that he wasn't at Knapford. But I've witnessed the exact opposite. The tank engine has no hope, but Percy and the passengers who stayed with us believe it'll be okay, I hope. While on guard I saw Emily rush past with her coaches and 2 orange engines towards Tidmouth. She didn't stop, most like she didn't even notice us as the mist had gotten worse. Why would Emily be running away from the mainland? Perhaps we'll head back down to Tidmouth and look for her. Thomas said they had a base at Brendam with a few engines and a bunch of people. But they were attacked by 2 engines who put them in traps on 8 games which result in death. We might go check it out to see if anyone else made it. While sitting around we saw that engine again. I think I saw those 2 orange engines and Emily's coaches behind him begging to stop. They only confirmed who it was. We made a plan which was to leave half the passengers at Marin and head back down the line towards Tidmouth as Thomas begged us, saying we had to check it out to see if we could find Emily or anyone else then Brendam. We arrived at Tidmouth where we found the remains of the only Sterling engine on Sodor, and that's when we knew Emily's dead. Her face was faded and looked as though she was screaming and crying blood, and worst, her funnel had been crushed and inside was worse. Her crew was there, they were both stabbed by pieces of metal from Emily's cab and her boiler was the same, dented and crushed. What could cause this? Percy felt bad as he was rude to her sometimes and never got to say sorry. Thomas also began to cry, saying how it was his fault and didn't deserve to be saved. We asked what he meant and how he knew Emily was here. He said Emily was one of the few engines at the docks with him, and when they were attacked, he told Emily run to Tidmouth, and he'll meet him there. We told him it wasn't his fault and he didn't have to blame himself. We were about to leave when we saw Donald hiding amongst the trucks. He was babbling uncontrollably. He saw us asking if we had seen Douglas. We told him no, but that didn't help. We coupled to Donald up and continued down the line. We arrived at Tidmouth sheds to refill Percy's tanks, and we never got to see what we saw.